Great.
Welcome to Punchline Talks, the big interview sponsored by Infostar IT Solutions. I'm Mark Owen, and today my special guest is Mark Dransfield. He's the founder and chairman of Dransfield Properties Ltd, and this is the company that has absolutely transformed the old Merry Walks in Stroud to become the Five Valleys shopping centre. Welcome, Mark. Welcome to Punchline Talks.
Good afternoon to you.
Well, let's start at the very beginning, please. Can you tell us about the company? How many staff? What's the turnover? Different types of properties?
Yes, we've been going. Our company's been going 32 years now, so it's 32 years since the start of the business. We employ about 200 people up and down the country, and we own seven different centres from Morpeth down to your business down here in Gloucestershire, all the way across to East Ham in London.
How did you come across Stroud? How do you end up here? Had you been to Stroud before?
I never even heard of Stroud, to be honest with you. We were invited by Rothschilds, are one of our bankers, and they asked me to have a look at two distressed assets. One of those assets was in Manchester, which was near to one of the shopping centres that we owned, which we declined to take that any further. And I said to her, listen, where is Stroud? Because I'd never even heard of Stroud before. And they gave me some directions into Gloucestershire. So I said, okay, I'll go and have a look. I went down to the town. I couldn't find the shopping centre from the information I'd been given because it looked beautiful, the shopping centre. And as you know, the old Murray Walks was far from Murray and far from beautiful. But I ended up in the Market Square. And I was talking to a family which had run a cheesemonger business there for many years through two generations. And they were telling me all about the history of the town and the catchment and what a terrible shopping centre they've got in the town. And they just told me everything. It was quite interesting. And so I walked back down the town to what was the Murray Walks and found that destination. And it was sad. And it just added nothing to the community, in my opinion. It was full of dreadful shops, dreadful ambience. It was just beyond repair, beyond economic repair, I think. And I then started having a look around the town because they told me that the catchment was reasonably wealthy. So I had a look around the town and I thought, well, it's an interesting town. It's challenged with the topography, and there's some very strange shops in Stroud as well. So I came back to the office. I rang our profilers up, who were called CACI. They're an international business, and they profiled out the catchment for me, so I could understand the drive time of 30 minutes, people's social standing, disposable income, male, female, age profile, everything about the community that the centre should be catering for. And then I looked at the tenant mix that was in there and the design of the building, and I thought, well, this centre does not serve its catchment at all. And I then arranged for a meeting with the chief exec of Stroud District Council at the time, a gentleman called David Hagg. And I went to meet David, and he told me all about the town at their new offices in Eberley Mills. And he was a very charismatic individual and quite a persuasive individual. And I thought, I think this town probably has got some legs. So I invited him to come and have a look at some of the schemes we'd done. And I remember him and his wife were going to the northeast. So they went up to Morpeth to have a look at our centre in Morpeth. And then they came down and met me and my wife at the time, Deborah, for lunch at Fox Valley in Sheffield, which is where our head office was. We then struck up a relationship because he realised that, we did know a little bit about what we do, and the quality of the schemes we did were not just about money. It was about making a place and making people feel very proud of their area that they occupy. And I've got a big social conscience because I was born in a mining village called Grimethorpe in Barnsley. So I understand the value of a pound, and I understand social hardship. And I want our centres to be given a London experience in terms of design and ambience, and good value for money as well, in terms of making rents affordable for shopkeepers, running costs affordable, and also making it relevant for the people who live in that proximity and that distance to travel to that centre. And so the journey started. And I said to David, listen, I got to a position in my negotiations with Rothschild. I said, look, this is how much I'm prepared to pay, and we can't afford anymore. It's as simple as that. And I've just had a meeting with the county council and through David Hagg, and they're prepared to put some money in because this centre has gone too far. You know, the town is on the verge of collapse. If that centre disappeared, there would be no town centre. And just at the point there's was a plan application for an out of town scheme. And I said to David, if that is approved, we're not investing. Anyway, the council decided that the town centre was more important than the out of town, and they rejected the out of town application. And on the basis of David's persuasion there, we then decided to invest fully in the town. And that investment started 6 years ago. And we obviously went through some strange times with the COVID. And during that period, I got friends who got the Borough Market in London, and I went across to see them. And they were doing an absolute bomb in terms of home deliveries. So I thought, well, actually, we could potentially do this in Stroud. And I hadn't appreciated that in your community, you have a lot of people who work in the catering industry, but work seasonally for the different events you have in the region. One being Glastonbury, and you've got some amazing chefs there. So we started off with Thai to go, and we very quickly started to fill the centre with some amazing chefs who were catering for people who could not make it to the centre at the time. And as we came out of COVID, we have now started to become more sophisticated in the tenants that we put in there. And I would like to tell your audience that we have 2 new chefs coming in there, and before Christmas, the scheme will be full of independent chefs, and everybody does something different. And I pinched the leases from Borough Market, so everything is bespoke. So there's no overlap at all in the market hall. We also decided that we put our Sandersons department store in there because we felt that we needed to give other retailers a symbol that this is a scheme which has legs, and it's serving a proper catchment rather than just its inner core. And that's how we started. And now we're just in our final period of build. I think we've probably got 2 more years of investment there to complete the journey. And I've just been on this morning to our team. We're just looking at how we can create the seating area more attractive in the market hall, because it looks a bit dull at the moment, about jazzing all that up. And before Christmas, that will be looking amazing, and all the restaurants will be occupied, and hopefully the customers will be feeling empowered and wanting to come down and shop with us down there. So that's been the journey down here.
You've made an amazing transformation. It is absolutely brilliant. You're right. Stroud is a very unique place. And a bit like myself, when I first visited from Gloucester, you instantly fall in love with it. It has something special about it, isn't it? It has a heart, I think.
Stroud does have a heart. And this is the first scheme ever that we've looked at, which has a bus station next door to the centre. It has the multi-storey car park, which is now part of the centre, which was the first thing that we spent money on, because we took out all the energy burning light bulbs that were there and put white light in there. We triflexed all the area, and we've now, through negotiations with the local NHS and the local doctors, got a beautiful medical centre which we've just finished this year. And when I googled Stroud, it said it's Notting Hill with wellies, and it is really. I mean, I live in Notting Hill, and it's similar. Probably Notting Hill in the 80s, and it's got a little journey to go here, but it's full of characters. And when I saw that word Notting Hill with wellies, I decided that the architecture that we would try to bring forward would be reminiscent of Westbourne Grove in Notting Hill. So the doctor's surgery, all the detailing on that surgery is based upon Westbourne Grove in Notting Hill. The window head details, the window sills, the profiling, everything is identical to Westbourne Grove, the Palladium architecture down there. And we've carried the bricks forward. So the Muse developments that are in Notting Hill, we're using the London brick inside, and it's really given it some character. you've got some amazing people in the arts down there, and we've been very fortunate. We've Mark Amis, who's a local artist, collared me from day one of coming into the centre, and he's almost become a resident artist in amongst us, and he's created some amazing murals within the scheme, and is currently working on our patisserie, which we've just opened with their Shoebon in there. We've met some wonderful people from your existing market area, and I thought initially we would meet with a bit of reticence from the market, the guy who organises your beautiful market, but quite the contrary, he's been very supportive. And one of those particular guys there, Ori, the baker, we invested in him to open his first store in the town, in our centre, and we then invested further when he opened up in Cheltenham, and he still has a place on the market, and he's got a tremendous business. They start at 4 a.m. in the morning there, baking for the M5 services for his own units, and he's done a great job, and he's now buying his own shares back. It's been a truly remarkable success story. And Jack Knight, who's the butcher next door, we tracked down what we thought was one of the best butcheries in the local community, and we managed to secure him to come with his partner from Cheltenham. He's since bought his partner out, and he's since taken out the fishmonger and the fruit and veg. So on a Sunday morning, you can go and buy everything you need for the table, and his meats are amazing. Armadilli, she was based at the top of the hill. Again, she came in with us because she had no footfall, and her business has gone from strength to strength. And we've just seen the opening of Ducklin's toy shop in there. And the following that family have is amazing. He's got a beautiful business down there. And so that was packed this Saturday and Sunday with the kids coming in, pestering the parents to buy them toys for the shop, from the shop down there.
No, it's really good. So tell us a little bit about Sandersons, because obviously you took the chance of moving that, which is an upmarket store. Let's be honest about it. You know, you could have open that somewhere like Cheltenham. It could have fitted better, was always the argument, you know. But you went for it and you opened it in Stroud at Five Valleys.
Well, the first Sandersons was opened by my wife 2016 in Sheffield, because we'd bought an old steelworks there, we'd flattened it and created a shopping office, and very similar to what we have down in Stroud, but on a bigger footing, and a huge car park with that as well. And we couldn't find any tenants because I'd signed up a Tesco for a 65,000 square foot, very large store, and I couldn't sell the rest of the space. But we decided that we would open our first department store. We'd worked with small department stores like Brown's from York, and they were in one of our schemes, and Barker's in Northallerton, who we went to see them to help mentor us. So we opened our first store there, and on the back of that, we were then able to secure many more tenants, and that centre is full. In fact, all of our centres are full now, but that's created the catalyst to get the retailers in there to show that there was confidence in the town, that there was that catchment, that disposable income to support that sort of brand. So we've gone through a full learning process at Fox Valley. New Look then went bust, and they had one of our shops in Morpeth in a very prominent location, and it was in the recession. So we decided we'd open up another Sandersons there, which was successful. So we then thought we'd open up our third one down in Stroud, because we thought we got a recipe. But then we had a few retailers knocking our door up in Morpeth who wanted to take that. So we closed that store and focused our full attention to Stroud and Fox Valley, which is where we are now. And the store is doing really well. It's got a high propensity of return shoppers to the store, and you've got price points in there from £10 to £2,000, and we stock your beautiful brand from Holland Cooper in Cheltenham, and the family there built an amazing business, so we stock their things as well as Barbara and many other brands. And we've got the most beautiful fragrance ranges in the world. I go all over the world looking for fragrances and bring them back into our stores, so they're individually curated as well.
obviously the process of going through that I mean, it was such an old building, knocking down. It must have been an absolute nightmare going back to the sort of very beginning to regenerate it. What would you say was what would you do differently if you had the chance again, knowing what you do, knowing what you know now about the scheme?
I don't think I'd do anything differently. The whole reason I bought that investment is because my wife was suffering from cancer at the time and I needed a big challenge and I knew that she was poorly. And sadly, she passed away 5 years ago, and I needed a big challenge to put all my energy into. And Stroud has been that obsessive energy transmitter, which I've focused on, and it's really helped me personally. And I've enjoyed working on this transformation. It's been a really personal thing for me. And, it's nice to hear some people who stop me and say, "Oh, you, Mr. Dransfield, you've done a really good job here. We're delighted." You get the odd person that's really negative, but we've created some amazing friendships in that community and with, all walks of life. And I love it. Don't ask me why, but I love the town. I really do.
It's a very neat plan. Do you get a chance to go around the valleys at all when you pop over?
I do now and again, but in all of these towns that I've worked in, you have to be obsessive and you have to be fully focused on that store to every single little detail. And I often do not get a chance to get outside one of our townhouses and then step back on the centre. So I'll be on the centre from 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning through till 8 o'clock at night, and then we go for something to eat to Fat Tony's or wherever. So it's been great.
Come back to yeah, sorry.
Sorry, we're in the process of working with the cinema now, so replacing all the seats in the cinema, and they've tied up all their entrance areas. So I'm hoping the cinema is now going to start receiving people back because, when I looked in the cinema, it was a disaster. The seats were all torn, they were all covered up. The patronage was poor. There wasn't even a link between the multi-story car park and that particular facility. It was just the centre was an absolute shambles. It's not now,
Yeah.
thankfully.
Without a shadow of a doubt. What's your proudest retailer in there? Your best selling retailer? Who's doing the best within the centre itself?
I've got many stories there. I think the family that I'm most proudest of is Ian, who has got Tie to Go. They had a tragedy in their family last year where they lost one of the members. He now, with his different family members, owns one full street all the way to the noodle bar from the Tie to Go. And he's been a source of inspiration for me. He's also my ears. Paul Malpass, another local trader. I've moved Paul 3 times and he's had the faith to move with me. I think when I first went to see him, he was thinking, who the bloody hell's this guy from the north thinking, what does he know about retail? But he's had the faith in me and he's doing well. His trade's opposite Sandersons and it's been amazing. And there are many, many stories. Ori the baker, the butcher. There are so many people in there, individual characters with a real passion. The sushi chef that's there, he's probably one of the best sushi chefs in the country. The Italian family there, Matteo and his wife, they're beautiful people. And they have a dark kitchen, which they bash food out for the M5 services. It's I can go on and on. I mean, the bowling alley upstairs, the family who owned the bowling alley, it was a complete disaster when I went in there. And I spoke to the family that owned it. Said, "Listen, you need to do something, otherwise we'll have to take it back." And he convinced his daughter to come in and run the business. And she worked with a team that were there, ripped everything out themselves, put it back together again. I didn't know when we bought that place, they have championship bowling there for all over Europe. And those two people who owned who own the business still now, they were Great Britain champions. And when they
Wow.
have competitions there, it's beamed all over Europe. It's incredible. It's an amazing facility. They've got the best bowling alley lanes in the country.
Wow, I didn't know that.
No, there's a lot of hidden gems in Stroud, and that's what's great about it. You turn a corner, you lift the carpet, and there's something else there. It's fascinating.
So let's go back to the beginning, if you don't mind. So
Mhm.
obviously you're not from Stroud. Where were your folks from? And I think one was if your father was a policeman, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah, my dad is still alive, and we were born. I was born in Grimethorpe in Barnsley, which is a mining village, and probably people know Grimethorpe with the film Brastoff or the Grimethorpe Colliery Band, which are world famous. Uh, have it be that nobody from Grimethorpe plays in the Colliery Band and haven't done for the last 10 years, sort of paints a picture, really. But from there, we moved over to Hull in 1962, and I grew up in Hull from till I was 22. And I entered a television program, and it was Enterprise 88, it was called. And I won the competition, and Deborah, my former wife, she came second, and that's how we first met. And it was quite interesting because she was actually born in White City in Grimethorpe, and her father was he was in charge. He was a ganger. He was in charge of a lot of pit handlers, and so he was working on the coalface. And they lived in the posh houses, which were the concrete houses that had been built on the hillside. And we lived in the old brick red houses where there was icicles on the inside of the wall in winter. And my dad was a village bobby, and neither families knew each other, which was very unusual. So we met and we got together, and life was great. We've got two daughters, and she convinced me to move over to Sheffield when I was 26, and I lived in Sheffield and have lived in Sheffield for the rest of that period there. And I'm 62 now, so a long time.
So how did you get into the property game then?
I left school at 16 with two O levels, maths and English, the best two subjects. One, I can understand figures, and two, I can communicate with people. I don't really think you need much else in life, really, unless you're going to go be a student or a doctor. And I left and started as a costing clerk for a company called T Wrights in Hull, which are a building company. I then went to work for a small building company and became a director there at 21 years old had a brand new BMW, and I thought everything had arrived in my lap. I used to work in tirelessly long hours, and then my boss died, and it's the first person who died to me that was close. And I was working for a big group of companies, and they called me in and said, "Look, Mark, we want you to run the excavation company because the chief exec there is leaving." I said, "I'm not interested in wagons and moving stuff about with on motorways. I want to carry on building." So I then set up my own building company. And at that point there, I got my building company set up in 28 days, VAT registered, everything. And I went to see this guy who just priced this job for, and I said, "Listen, the company's going to be put into administration. I'm starting on my own. I'd like to do the job." So they said, "Well, I haven't got any choice, have I? Because we're supposed to be starting in 2 weeks' time." So I said, "Good, that's great then, isn't it?" So I signed my first building contract for Joshua Tetley's, based in Leeds, the brewery, and went on to do many public houses throughout the Yorkshire region. Started working for B&Q and other businesses, and then I saw Aldi and Netto come into the country, and I thought, wow, these have got a fantastic difference between all the other supermarkets. It's cash. They're small. They fit into places where the other major retailers didn't want to go. And at that point in time, we just started to get really hammered for bad debts. This was in the late 1980s, 89, between 89 and 91. And I decided to, having met with Aldi and Netto, I decided that I really got on with the property director from Aldi. And so because we're getting hit for bad debt after bad debt in construction, the margin is very slim. I was finding it very difficult to stay afloat. But I'd seen this get out jail card. I thought, if I can own my own property company, my construction company can work for my property company in building Aldis up and down the country. So my first Aldi planning application was in Altrincham. And I didn't know anything about planning. I rang all the councils up and introduced myself, went around to see them all, told them what we were doing. And I thought that was just normal. You'd have a cup of tea with them. They were decent people. I was working class, they were working class, it's no problem. And I hadn't appreciated how politics worked, because my application was not aligned with planning policies which the Labour Council had created, because it was out of town. So I attended the planning meeting with Nick Wright, the property director from Aldi, and they all turned it down unanimously. And I didn't appreciate the Labour Party vote in block. Not they're supposed to in planning, but they do. And the chief exec and the leader of the council, a chap called George Slynn, very interesting character, had a few white hairs, a few odd teeth, very thick glasses on, came to see me and said, look, Mark, we want Aldi to invest in the town. I'm going to take you outside. We're going to walk the town centre. I've got 3 sites. Choose whichever one you want and we'll sort it out. So I walked around the town centre. We chose one site and that was it. Within 6 weeks, I got my planning consent. But after that planning meeting, I had to come out and ring my bank manager up at Barclays and tell him that planning had been turned down. And he said to me, Mark, you know what I've got to do, don't you? So I said, I don't. I said, you're going to call the administrator in? So he said, yes. So I said, look, I have got a get out of jail card here. But if that's what you want to do, that's up to you. So I entered into administration with my construction company and started my property company pretty much simultaneously. And it was with a heavy heart because I'd given personal guarantees. So the banks then started to come at me for personal guarantees. And
how much money did you? Sorry, Mark. How much money did you owe then?
I signed a personal guarantee for £500,000, and I got nothing like £500,000. And so I did what's called a CVA at the time, which was quite unusual. I ended up in the Citizens Advice Bureau in Goole. I went to see the Citizens Advice people, and it was a chap there, and he said to me, Mark, I've had so many people come and say, listen, you've got nothing to worry about. You're a bright young man. Things will be okay. You're in a dark corner now. I'm going to set you up with a company in Leeds, Coopers and Lybrand, to put forward a CVA, and they'll protect you, and it'll be done correctly, and you'll pay off however much in a pound you can afford to pay off, and you'll be done and dusted in a few years. So I went to see Coopers and Lybrand. I was absolutely, totally embarrassed. I felt a complete failure. It was a very dark time in my life. And Deborah and I would just got married. It was a disaster. And you lose all sense of humility, and all your friends disappear. And so I went through the CVA and I got stuck into my business. And I said to Deborah, I'm not buying anything at all until I can afford to buy what I used to enjoy buying. So I bought no clothes, nothing at all for a year. And in the year, I ended up doing 2 Aldis. I did 1 drive-through McDonald's. So I'd earned 3 times the salary that I was getting from my building company, and I was working from home. And people used to say to me, how do these big companies, Mark, deal with you when you're working from home? And I said, listen, all companies want is results. And if you're producing results, it doesn't matter whether you're working from home or you're working in an office full of Rembrandts. It doesn't make any difference whatsoever. And that's how I got stood back up and started with my property company. And we very quickly became the biggest developer of food stores in the UK. So I've done 26 Aldi stores, God knows how many little stores. We're working with Quick Save, Safeway, Presto stores, Tesco, Asda. I've worked for all the food retailers in the country apart from Sainsbury's. And I learned in my life never to prostitute yourself. I was doing a big Asda, 90,000 square foot Asda in Pestle Road in Hull, which is a very poor area. I had to relocate 7 businesses, a car showroom, high Q tyres, a plastics factory, all sorts of different businesses. And Asda nearly emptied my pockets in dealing with all these. And Tesco rang me up and said, look, Mark, we want that site. We'll pay you £1 million more and we'll pay all your expenses to date. So I said to Steve Ho, I said, Steve, I'm not prostituting myself. As much as the offer is, I really could do that. I'm going to give Asda 48 hours to exchange contracts. And if they don't, I'll come down to Berwyn Leighton and we'll do the deal and I'll sign up with you. So I rang Andy King at Asda. I said, right, Andy, listen, we've been having difficult conversations the last few months. You've been delaying exchange with me because I think you want to try and bankrupt me again, and it's not going to happen. I said, Steve Home at Tesco has come to me and offered me this. I said, I'm not asking for £1 million more, but if you do exchange in 24 hours, I'm never ever going to deal you ever again. And I'm going down to do the deal with Tesco, so you can do whatever you need to do. I said, but I'm telling you now, I'm not prostituting myself, and you will never be able to tell anybody that I've not been a man of my word.
Yeah.
And the exchange within 24 hours, deal done. And that man still regales that story to today. But I have never, ever prostituted myself. I've always gone the mile with everybody to allow them to see whether it works for them or doesn't work for them. William Morrison's, we're one of Morrison's major developers in the UK. We've done a lot of stores with William Morrison's. I pride myself on relationships. With every business, we work with Marks and Spencers, everybody, and we know pretty much up to the board level in most businesses, and we do repeat business with people. And long-term relationships, to me, are what it's all about.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow. I've got to ask you. I've got to bring this photograph here. I'm going to share my screen. You kindly sent me this. Can you see that big picture of yourself,
Yes,
Mark?
that was
So,
1988 when I won my award with Yorkshire Television.
oh, right. And how old are you then?
23.
And you reckon so? Is that your old house or something, or is this a property
No,
you were doing that?
I built myself my first new house.
Wow, at 23.
Yes.
Fine looking chap. Fine looking chap. So anyway, we got to where we are now. We're kind of running out of time, you know. We're running out of time already. So I've got to ask you. What have you sort of music do you listen to, Mark? So I went into your car right now and turned on the music machine. I can't figure it out.
Yes.
What would be playing?
Well, this is current because I'm 62. It's my birthday a few weeks ago, and I went with my family across to Ibiza. And one of my friends there she's been a friend of mine for quite a number of years. She's a DJ there. So my birthday is October the 5th, and we went to see Black Coffee in High. And so I went there, and I really enjoyed that. And so he's one of my uh, top people to listen to at the moment. I love the Rolling Stones. My culture of music, I like music full stop, but I guess those are my two favorites.
Okay, and I've got to ask you. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. What are your top three business tips, Mark?
Never take no for an answer. Always be super honest. And if you make a promise, deliver it. That's it.
Mark Dransfield, thanks for talking to Punchline Talks. Really great to speak to you. Remember, it's all in the punchline. Thank you. Bye.